Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Bro Man Clash right here, and I'm going to talk about something that some of y'all are probably thinking about, and that is the topic of history. And I remember I saw this before, and it said that until the lion gets his own story, history will write the hunter as the victor. And what's that basically saying? That history, in a sense, has biasness to it. And some of you might say, you don't say, in a sarcastic tone. I could feel y'all already. But truth be told, you gotta be honest with yourselves, because sometimes history is not exactly official. When they say official history, sometimes they mean it in a biased side or one-sided instead of looking at two sides and looking at the facts. But when it came right down to it, there were a lot more contributions made in history. And if you break down the word history, you know what you get? His story or that person's story. But if you break down mystery, change a bit of the value, you get my story or my or the people who lived it. Now then, how does the mystery and the history come together? See, the history would not exist without the mystery, and the mystery would not exist without the history. And some people are afraid of the mystery because they're afraid of the unknown. They're afraid to expand their mind. They're afraid to look at other perspectives. And sometimes other perspectives will actually be more biased and will be coming from a people who would support it more than they would actually look at the facts and say, this can't be the case. Because if you actually talk to the real indigenous people, they'll tell you what the hell happened. They'll tell you from their ancestors' mouths, not from a history book. Because a history book was written by somebody else who probably tampered or dealt with history in a biased perspective. Just like what happened, there were two scientists. No, there were two explorers. One of them lived with the indigenous people, the other one just told them that they had gold. Yes, this is talking about the age of exploration. The one that lived with the people, they said on to the king and the queen, they said, these people are not bad. These people have their own history. They're kind. They're sweet. They actually treat people with respect. We should not treat them this way. But the explorer that came before him or came after him told them that they had gold, they had resources, and we could exploit them. The king and the queen listened to that explorer over the explorer who had a conscience. Now, see, look, the mystery versus the history. They say the ruling power, whoever has the gold makes the rules. Remember that from Aladdin? Hey, I don't watch Disney movies anymore. Some of it, stereotypical, racist, and all that crud, man. I think you know the whole gig, about Walt Disney having a bit of a biased mind. And that's the case. Sometimes it is the case, sometimes it has a hidden subliminal message. But if you really look at it, there was one thing in Aladdin that was always said. He said, you're of the golden rule, haven't you? Whoever has the gold makes the rules. But what would happen if that gold turned out to be pyrite? Basically, fool's gold or history. Some of history is fool's gold because it tells a false ideology. For example, when you were younger, when we were around like 7, 6, or possibly even 5, you were taught that Christopher Columbus was a hero. Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, discovered America, and with the Mayflower, well, even though he wasn't there mostly, and with the Mayflower came the first pilgrims, and Thanksgiving was born between the Indians and the pilgrims. Now then, when you really look at history in an unbiased tone, or the mystery, as they say, mystery, break it down, you get my story. And what do you get? You get something completely different. You get it from the people who actually lived who lived to tell the tale, who lived to tell what actually happened. And I respect that. Personally, man, it's true because the Native Americans actually said that, look, Christopher Columbus was drifting out into sea. He did not discover America. And personally, man, There were already people living there. I think we already know the whole gig. But for some of those who don't, Christopher Columbus, they claim that Christopher Columbus discovered America. That wasn't the case. But yet in history, they put it down as that. Just taking along and moving along. And then after that, the exploitation of the people came around. But let's go on back to the two explorers. One of them, I believe his name was Francis or something. I forgot. Francisco. I don't know. But he lived with the people. He lived with the indigenous people and said, these people are not bad. They have their own culture. Sure, they're different, but they live their own lives. And they are very kind people. Any normal person would say kindness, prosperity, and also living a good life. These people are not uncivilized. They are civil people. But the king and the queen, they were focusing on power. And you know what happens with power, right? Those who don't know how to control power or even understand it will eventually be ruled or destroyed by it. And then, how does that tie in with, history and mystery? Think about it. Because some people are afraid of looking at the history. Matter of fact, some people have the indoctrinated, colonized, and even biased history told to them since they were young. They can't even accept like what really happened or come from a different source. That's the mystery. Then the mystery reveals another part that can potentially complete the whole story. If you notice, it's a story. And sometimes stories can be derived from truth or from fiction. But which part is the truth and which part is just the story? That is a question that many of us are willing to ask. And some of us are willing to answer, yet many of us are scared to know the truth of, but many of us rather hear the lie of. What is so scary about learning the truth? It's just like, I remember I was playing Kingdom Hearts and I watched this one video and it came from Kingdom Hearts 2. Mickey, King Mickey, he said something I'll never forget. He said, it's not like we're scared of the dark. It's not like the darkness is evil. It's just that it's kind of scary. I'm just like, really? Now, let me tell you why he said that. It's because, darkness is considered to be misunderstood or considered to be scary because of who controls it. If you can understand and channel darkness, you understand the mysterious parts of it. But it's kind of funny when you describe darkness in such a connotation that was already described since like Victorian times? Darkness, dark is always considered to be evil, sullen, tainted, all that jazz that you heard in Malcolm X. And especially when he talked with that other prisoner. His name is Bambi, I believe, or Bimby or Bambi. And he told him, open up the dictionary, look up the word black. What do you see? He said, wicked, tainted, evil, with malevolent intent. And then look at white. He said, pure as snow, without a blemish, good, pure good. And then it was funny because then you turn to the cover, you see that it was written by a white man. And during that time, what happened with white folks and black folks. Don't get me wrong, there are some white people that did help out blacks. We already know the whole deal. But you have to remember there were some things that were going on during that time that made people really think like, yo, see, look, because they don't want to talk about the history. Matter of fact, they want to talk a lot about the history, but little of the mystery. Because the mystery can actually answer some of the questions that the history provides. Why is that? Maybe it's because the mystery is the hidden truth, the truth within the truth, while the history is just a cover story. Never thought of it that way, did you, huh? Some people would rather use history as a way to indoctrinize, to keep people asleep, to make sure people are not able to fight back, to show people that their way is right. And even though I despise this man with a lot of hatred and a lot of my being because of what he did, but compared to him and what happened in America, he's like a little child. Adolf Hitler, he said, no matter how ridiculous the message sounds, as long as you keep on pounding the message into the people's heads, they will eventually listen and they will eventually just believe it. Sometimes you got to get them when they're early. And that's where history comes in. When you teach the youth a misguided history, they will be misguided throughout their whole lives. Isn't that something? Then, when it comes right down to it, if you keep on teaching the youth lies, they'll eventually lie themselves. And then you want to know why the youth is lying. You can't teach the youth the truth if you're teaching them a lie. See, history and mystery go hand in hand, but when it's misused and abused, that's when it becomes really dangerous. But in the end, what will happen if the history actually tells the truth? Will it become the mystery and the mystery will become obsolete? It won't. In fact, the mystery and the history are going to be so intertwined together that you're just going to get the whole story. And the whole story will reveal what is really going on. And the whole thing is just beautiful because it reveals both the negative and the positive. That's what makes us human. And some of you may say, are you just trying to secretly bash white people? Let me tell you something, man. If that was the case, I would have openly said this. I hate white people. But I didn't. You want to know why I didn't? Because, seriously though, there's no sense in doing that. I gotta focus on my own people. My people are important. And in the end, what's gonna happen? Hatred doesn't solve anything. It's just gonna hamper your movement. Love is gonna solve that. But at the same time, if you love your enemy too much, you're gonna wind up becoming a slave instead of a free man. And you end up believing his story than your own story. The mystery will just be lost, while the history, which is most likely going to be biased, is going to be prevalent. And with that, YouTube, I say this is Bro Man, out one, and one. Love y'all. Take it easy.